Hello and welcome to 20 Lore Pro. We are here with Charlie's Collectible Show's Lorcana 10K with our 20 Lore Pro Community Pro, Kendall, aka Noimnot. We're watching his fourth round here of today's tournament, and we know, future knowledge, that he makes it into the top four of this tournament. So we're really going to watch a wonderful player make it very far in today's tournament. But we're here with myself, SirAshtown, but mainly Katie and Clara. How are y'all doing today? Clara, have you been doing well so far?
I'm doing well so far. Thank you so much. I really been enjoying the games, learning a lot about the plays that Kendall is doing.
Yeah, he's been great, and I mean, we're watching, really like a master class on how to pilot Ruby Amethyst, and it's been really great to hear y'all's commentary on it. And Katie, how have you been?
Oh, it's been very exciting. I feel like I'm getting in Kendall's head. This is the Kendall master class, so people are watching and following each of the matches. I think it's very cool that Kendall let us watch him for all these rounds, because it's very cool to get to know this deck. But there's a little deja vu if you watch these. If I'm assuming everybody's sitting down, they're watching them in one day, they're watching them in order. Kendall so far, he's undefeated. He has played a mirror match he started with, an Amethyst Emerald, but then he moved into Ruby Sapphire, and it's round 4 and it's another Ruby Sapphire. So it's a Groundhog's Day for Kendall right now.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if we see the same kind of plays, because not two Ruby Sapphire decks are the same unless you're from the same pod.
And that's a good point. Ruby Sapphire is a deck that we have seen some variability in it, as far as what are your favorite ramp cards. I mean, we already see one that he just inked of a hero, which Kendall's doing the same thing I'm doing, where it's like, what? Give me that. So we already see a little bit of spice here from Justin.
I like those decks really well seasoned with those little spices there.
Exactly, because it gives your opponent, it kind of, even the mentalness, I mean, the competitive advantage of putting in a card that's good is always good, but giving them a moment to be like, can I see that? Is always satisfying, because it makes you kind of feel like a success as a player, that you've kind of added something that people who play a lot of Lorcana aren't exactly sure what they're going to do about yet. Looking up card. It's so funny with the newer cards. Let's see here. So
I'm really curious to bring that the Hero Hamada card into light, giving us like a little in-depth knowledge of the theme of that Ruby Sapphire deck. Hero
yeah, it looks like it allows you to dig a little bit.
Let me see.
Yeah, you pay 2, so it's a 4 inkable.
Yep.
And then you can pay 2 additional to look at the top card of your deck, put it at the top and bottom of your deck. Now he's a 1/5, but he has resist 1, so he's not, the most menacing card in the world. But sometimes at the end of your deck, or rather, if you're in top deck mode, something like this can really help get you out of the panic of getting the card you need. So I can see the value of a card like this.
Also, it gives your other inventors resist +1. At certain point could be relevant against a single attack of a Maui hero to all on a Hiram. But it's a 4-drop. Hiram is a 4-drop also. I'll be interested to know why is in there.
I know. What's the plan? Will we ever know? Now we do see, is that Tipo? Yeah. So Tipo, he's a classic. He's already made his way into the meta pretty solidly as a nice ramp card. But yeah, I want to see, are there more inventors in here? What do we have? But it could just, and we see a Maui Shark, which is a card that has been very popular, especially in these Ruby Sapphire decks with some of these actions to get some things back, get your brawls back, get your, really, there's lots of actions. Sail the Azurite Sea, as well as Everyone's favorite, be prepared.
Yeah, but maybe it is the matchup of Ruby Amethyst, or it's something else. But I've never seen so far the Maui Shark be able to get the advantage, that traction that we're looking for.
I know, and I think that's my bias. I think, now we're in round 4 of watching Kendall play, and this is, I think, his 3rd time having a Maui Shark on the other side, because I think there was in the first deck, too, and I want to see Maui do some menacing things, which we don't see Maui, but we do see our favorite, Sisu. She's big, she's here, and she's here to take away all characters with 2 strength or less, which leaves only Snake left on Kendall's side.
And she's in charge. That Sisu is in charge.
Yeah, it's a rough card. I mean, being a 5/4, questing for 3, being able to shift into it and quest immediately. Now, this one wasn't one where he shifted, but it can be so painful in so many ways, especially when paired with everyone's favorite item of Ice Block. And I say everyone's favorite. It's most people's not favorite. It's only Hiram and her favorite. Now, he's doing something that I said, I think, in our last game that doesn't feel good, paying to sing or to play Friends on the Other Side as an action. But, when you need cards, you need cards. He's still up by 6, so it's not the worst thing that's ever happened. But he does go ahead and pay 3 for that, Friends. And then looks like he played a snake and bounced the snake back to his hand.
Yeah, netting 1 lore from questing with the first snake, but yeah, having your turn be resumed to card casting a Friends on the Other Side, getting a 1 lore out of something and playing a Chernobug's forward does not feel like really exciting.
No, it's not the most fun thing you can do. Certainly knowing that, Chernobog, he did go ahead and quested for 1 and drew a card. So maybe it's getting to something exciting. It's fun because you look at Kendall's hand, you're like, well, he got everything, but he obviously doesn't have what he wants, which I would imagine would be a be prepared in this scenario.
Maybe not. Like, I'll be okay with the box being played here. Or just be prepared, I guess.
When in doubt, let's just start over. And that's what he's going to do here.
Mm-hmm.
Now we do see...
After the draw card.
Yeah, so he did get... Draw... Oh, wow. Okay, so he passed. And then looks like he quickly played a Maui Shark.
Yes.
And then passed back already. So that was a very fast turn. Which looks like he didn't exert his ink to play the Maui Shark. So that's, I think, psyched me out there. But
yeah, interesting thing is in Kendall's position, you really want to continue drawing cards, getting the options in hand to be able to better respond to what Justin is about to do in the following turns. And getting rid of cards that you don't need, such as Brawl. Yes, there is Hiram. Yes, there could be Chicha, but we didn't see one. There's Tipo, but we don't want to Brawl a Tipo.
No.
So, if it is only useful against at most 4 cards in the deck, you probably have better removal options in your hand right now.
yeah, and we do know that he has some pretty nice removal. So it is... He has the why not both technique of Medusa and Lady Tremaine in his deck. So both of them have their advantages, especially when you have only one character in play on the other side. Lady Tremaine suddenly becomes a much more appealing card.
Yeah, by the second, indeed.
And he's gonna go ahead and quest with that Maui shark.
Oh yeah, that shark could slowly quest its way to the victory.
Now, the condition for Maui Shark, he has to challenge or quest in order to get that action back.
It is to challenge, so players got to be careful out there while triggering the shark's ability, because the shark says whenever you challenge with him another character, you can return an action back to him from the discard pile. And if you play an action, you gain 1 lore. So it's really specific.
Yeah, and so that Maui shark is living another day. He's gonna go ahead and do a Hiram, digging for more cards. He's resplendent with ink, but still digging through that deck to look for even more menacing cards with visions of the future.
Really setting up for following turns. What is interesting is you could chain effects like Vision of the Future to slowly increment your lore points with the shark.
Yeah, and we've seen in so many decks where that passive lore gain can be a big benefit overall, for lack of a better term, because it's anytime you're getting lore for just doing what you want to do anyway, it can be a very powerful tool. So I guess I finally got to see my dream of Maui Shark. He's staying on the board and he's doing things. He's not getting to challenge. Kendall's making sure of that, but other than that, he is, still getting some value out of that Maui.
Yeah, and the thing is, the shark has a paralyzing effect most of the time, unless we see it right now. Probably a setup for pre-prepared. Yeah. So the shark prevents you from just questing normally, and unless you're pretty sure to remove the shark one way or another.
Yeah, so in this case, they're still going. That's the fun of a control deck versus a control deck, is you get to this mode where there's lots of fun ways to mess with your opponent and their plans. In this case, Tamatoa doesn't have a ton of items, but the good news is Tamatoa brings his own items with him, and he does go in his discard to get a Popsicle out there, which is good in 2 ways, because it lets him draw another card.
Yeah.
But will Tamatoa make it? Nope. Tamatoa has not been having a good time against Kendall.
Yeah.
Be prepared to not get to quest with Tamatoa. So we see Justin saying, all right, let's go look for some answers here. I'm playing a Visions of the Future. He immediately sees it, Be Prepared, and puts it in his hand. So that's fun. He didn't need to think too hard about that. But we know he's not probably going to use that quite yet. It looks like he has 2 Be Prepared, because he already had one in his hand, it looks like. Or no, he didn't get it. He got Tamatoa, and he has a Be Prepared in his hand. Sorry. Difficult to see at the angle. He has a lot of cards. He's resplendent with cards. But no item.
That's... Okay, that is... I believe it's a misplay.
Yeah.
Because no items were brought back with the Tamatoa.
Which is rough. I don't know if he just assumed it was still there, or...
Well, like... cracking the Popsicle would have been the best thing to do here. Right now, we might be -1 card at some point, and it could be really hurtful.
Yeah, these turns, I hate to say every turn's critical, but it really is in the sense that, you give Kendall an inch and he can take a mile, especially with his deck where you have 2 goats on board right now, which is absolutely devious. All right, so he's trying to think. Is there anything I have in my hand or on this board where I have a dime? Do I have anything that's going to get me? Because he needs an item and a dime, which I guess a dime is an item, but he already quested it. Well, I guess it would still count.
But being able to draw a dime here would mean victory.
But instead, he's going to give Kendall 2 lore. So he'll be prepared here. Takes Kendall to 18, I believe. And he's just hoping he lives to see. Which he plays a Madame Medusa with no target, but he only has 2 cards in hand, it looks like. Which now down to 1 card. So Justin's, he's not out of it. But every turn is stressful for him against Kendall's deck. We're seeing the real reason I don't play Sapphire is trying to keep your giant pile of ink and your giant pile of cards, all those separate. In this case, he also plays a card without doing the full potential of the destruction. So he plays a Sisu with no board wipe, which is okay. It costs for 3, but Kendall says, I have my 1 Dragonfire. It's a full art promo, and it's going to take...
Dragonfire.
Yes. No one expects it, but there it is, his 1 Dragonfire.
Like, at this point, I would just put fire emojis everywhere.
Exactly. He's not out of it yet. He does have to find some answer for this Madame Medusa and hope that he draws no more goats. He got rid of 2 goats, so he's becoming less goaty, but still rough. I don't think goaty is a scientific term, but his deck is certainly goaty.
Oh, yeah. Well, the goat is also the greatest of all time, so...
Yes, the goat, it proves its worth in every deck it exists in. So Kendall's saying, what have you played already? Which is a fair point, because obviously earlier he either forgot or didn't know that he didn't have any items, so he is also interested to see what is in that discard. In this case...
Yeah,
he had no answers for that. Yeah. So it does look like Kendall took the win just because he was able to Dragonfire that sweet, sweet giant dragon.
Crazy, isn't it? There's one thing I've seen so far. Like, spoilers alert if you didn't watch the previous videos, but Kendall winning the first games every time. I believe he did, right?
Yeah, I mean, because I think he has, and I have to double check, but I think he's either swept or because they've either gone 2-1 or he swept because he's undefeated. So he's definitely played to his advantage.
And securing that first win is a good leg up. Like, the on the mental level, it really helps. We're not saying this enough, but the effect of feeling secure, and you knowing how to react to it properly, means that you are in the advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes you, it can be hard because when you play the same deck twice, maybe you can get complacent. But in this case, Kendall feels very confident. I mean, we talked, I think, already about how Kendall has been playing this deck for a while, right? So, I mean, he's very confident with how to navigate this deck, certainly against meta decks where there's not a lot of surprises. Now, we saw a hero that both made us go, hero, but then we never saw him again. So perhaps that card was there just to make us go exactly what we did and say, what could that be? And throw us off.
Yeah, we got real good.
So we are moving into game 2 here, and like you said, Kendall's feeling pretty good.
You know, I'm still thinking about that turn where Justin, he hadn't popped the popsicle, and he played Tamatoa, which, you know, that's fine. Okay, you missed that. But then he quested with Tamatoa after popping the popsicle, but then didn't get it back from his discard.
It was an interesting thing going on there. That was, I mean, I tried to be like, you know what? I'm not sitting and playing, so I don't at the same time. I want to know. You wish you could like do like an after match interview, but then at the same time, you also don't want to ask because I mean the answer is probably I got confused.
Well, we were talking about that earlier with Clara, but sometimes when you're playing on the feature match, it gets nerve-wracking, and I forget lines, and it can just, you're playing against a well-known player, and sometimes it just makes you play maybe not non-optimally.
Exactly. And we also have the fact that, I mean, yeah, he's being watched, featured, and he's played. This is the 4th round, and you start to get that deja vu where you're like, oh yeah, it's just like last game, and you're like, wait, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, let's not forget, those players are out there playing and are seen by, like, on stream by a lot of other people. Like, if you let the pressure get to you, yeah, it really kind of gets you there.
Exactly. So it's so hard because, yeah, if I'm sitting at home, I'm like, oh, I would never do that. But I am not sitting at home, and I am certainly not in this match. So, but yeah, you do wonder. I'm sure if you talk to Justin, he's probably like, I think of it every night. I'm certain he hasn't forgotten. So we do see some lines of play here that Justin is probably pretty happy about. You know, getting his popsicle out, getting the chicha out, brawling away that Flynn. He doesn't even get to be there as a pretty character that quests for run. He's out. Now he didn't ink twice that turn. It doesn't look like so. No card draw off the chicha, but Kendall then plays the Sisu that normally plays.
Chicha.
Oh, I'm sorry. That is a Tipo. I get them confused because they're both kind of just standing by a door. So the profile gets me here. So he did get to go.
I do recognize Tipo because of the inkable cost. Chicha is uninkable, but the 2 cards are really looking like it's a sapphire card with the yellowish.
I know, and they're both standing in front of
and the colors. Yeah.
So, you know, he looks like his mother, and that's a very beautiful thing to say.
Oh.
So he's still ramping. He's got the Sisu, which, you know, a Sisu that doesn't have a Flynn is still a Sisu that can quest for 2 and is a pretty big body. So plan B Sisu is not always the worst thing in the world, especially with Justin, who has a pretty healthy hand size. So Sisu still gets to be out there and quest for 2. And then he's using that rabbit for some card draw while Justin is building up his suite of items.
Yeah, that's what you want to have, like getting those Alice blocks out there, especially if you have more strength-based removal in hand. It really goes hand in hand. But right now we might have like a more item line of play. So I'm curious, Katie, what do you find better between the lines of action or items?
We move so far away from anything to deal with items where you get to a point where, like, if your opponent has 5 items, you're like, oh boy. And you know that there's that end game buildup of if you have 5 items and a Tamatoa and a dime, it's very hard to come back from that. So I think items to me is more formidable, but obviously actions have its benefit, especially with that shark where you're going to get lots of value out of them or potentially more value than you would have in previous sets. So personally, I'm more intimidated by items just because I truly have no answers for them, and most decks don't these days. But as we've seen,
Yeah,
it's not always a great plan because all it takes is removal on that Tamatoa, and he's nothing. He can't even quest.
we could remember the OGs being like, "Oh yeah, the items are great. I wonder if there's a good deck that goes with it." Then the OG player being sitting there with a flashlight. Oh no! Oh no! Timatoa, no.
I know yes. I mean, I've been on the other side of items where you're looking, you're like, please don't draw a dime, please don't draw a time. That's all it takes is to really turn a pile of items into a lethal turn, or lorthal, as they say these days. So he is accumulating, and double ice block is also something you don't want to see, especially knowing that now he can bring a couple characters down. He can put both ice block on one character, so it's a toolbox. I think that sometimes having items on your side, especially with a deck with Hirams and Tamatoas, it gives you a lot of flexibility on what you're going to do on your turn. In this case, he's still building up and digging for cards, so he hasn't quite figured out his plan for what he's going to do with all those items. But once he gets there, he has some options.
Oh yeah, you gotta put them in the bank.
Yeah, I'm saving up. In this case, single ice block and little Sisu. The littlest Sisu. There's little Sisu and littler human Sisu. And so he is going to go ahead and use that Sisu to get rid of that rabbit, making it a 1/3, which then makes it removable. Although Kento gets a draw card, which doesn't look like he needs any more cards, but he has more.
Yeah, but better to do that sooner than later. Especially if there's one rabbit in play, that is the best moment to do so. Otherwise, if there's more than one rabbit, it's not useful to deal with those.
Oh, he does go ahead. He has that Elsa to rush in and get revenge on Sisu, which I forget. Human Sisu is still a shift target to Big Sisu, which is what he wanted to do. So good play on Kendall's part, saying absolutely not on getting to shift and quest on the same turn.
Yeah, that would have denied Justin of 3 easy lore right there.
Which, it's always hard when you're like, you won't suspect it. And they're like, I do suspect it, and I am going to stop it. So he plays a genie, which is the fanciest, one of the fancier cards of the newest set. He does let you draw cards. He's evasive. And then a rabbit, which is, or no, sorry, goat. Sorry. So they all look purple. So he plays the goat. So he's getting some lore there.
That tasted purple.
Yes, it's the purple flavored deck. And sometimes when they're foils, that's my personal beef against cold foils, is I'm like, I can't see what it is because it makes them just a little bit darker, especially on camera, but it is more intimidating to have a foil deck. So I don't blame anyone for having a foil deck.
Yeah, I don't know if I said that comment earlier, but I'll say it again. The thing is, with foil, you really want to have your playsets in foil, because there is such a thing as memory, and if you have your opponent having that formidable memory,
Exactly.
and you have that one foil in that playset, maybe that opponent's gonna remember it. I know it's like conspiracy
I know,
theories
right? It's that,
and
but people
such.
say that, I heard someone where I was like, I like to put my hand in order from smallest to biggest, and like, but that's gonna telegraph. I'm like, well, how do they know I'm not sorting it by my favorite? And they're like, they know. So, I'm not good enough to know whether these things are true or not. But whatever somebody who's better than me says is true, I'll be like, okay, I believe you.
People's gotta know.
I know, they're like, I can tell what's in your hand. I'm like, oh my gosh, how is that person so good? But I know I'm
There's
not
a
that
mirror
good.
behind you.
Yeah, right. You see a man with an earpiece. Now, Tamatoa, will he survive to get to do one quest? Will he be generous and let that Tamatoa quest? I don't know. We haven't seen it yet. Kendall does not like letting Tamatoa. He's exerting 5. The dragon fire. They should call it Tamatoa fire. It's a crab boil. And that poor crab. He's not letting it happen.
But crab is good. So I understand.
Yeah. Nope. A crab that. And I find that it's so interesting how cards, if your cards depend on surviving a turn, especially in a late game against a Ruby deck, it's not so good because it's very rare that the card you're like, okay, just live one turn, please. It's usually the answer is no, especially with Kendall and this magical dragonfire that can manifest anytime he needs it.
That is so true. Like it is uncanny at this point that the dragonfire just happened to be at the right moment.
I know, it's like the 3rd time we've seen where he's like, and we know he only runs 1, so it is a very, very powerful dragonfire. However, we also have seen him draw a truly spectacular amount of cards. So
That is true also, and that is the power of card draw right there.
yeah, we're trying to see the power of items because we've now seen. I mean, he's got the whole shelf of items. We got 3 ice blocks, 2 popsicles. If there's another
Right now, it's
Tamatoa,
more like the right now it's more like the imminent threat of items. It's like
yes,
the shadow is lurking somewhere, and you have Hiram being the forefront knight of the upcoming apocalypse of the Tamatoa.
exactly. He's gonna eat items and turn them into Tamatoa. Hopefully, maybe I don't know. We'll see. But instead, he sees nothing because we see an enchanted Sisu, which is, I believe, he only runs 1 in his deck. So Kendall's really finding exactly what he needs and exactly what Justin doesn't want to see. Now, be prepared. It's the greatest revenge you can do, especially after your own board has been wiped. It is nice to say, well, right back at you. And that is what he does with that be prepared here. Now, Kendall is at 17, which, as we have talked many, many times, it's almost like you've won because we see how many cards in his hand. We know what he's got as far as potential. He doesn't seem to play it right away, but Chernobog is, a way to hopefully maybe get a card next turn. He's not playing anything else, which is curious. Makes me wonder what he has in his hand.
Maybe it's more like removal package.
Yeah, removal without a target doesn't feel good. So if he has a Lady Tremaine or he has something like that. But no, he's gonna.
Oh,
okay. And just say,
that is
and say, okay, it's fine. I'm not stressed. So sometimes patience pays off, in the sense that, yeah, if you know you got it and you know that Justin can't win in a turn, even with a lucky dime, it's still not enough. Then it's just, I'm fine. I'll wait. As stressful as it is to see someone play 1 card and not be stressed about it. So that was a sweep. So he went ahead and went 2-0 on that round, and really, really punishing the Ruby Sapphire deck and pulling out what looked like to be like an iPhone from very long ago. So that is also impressive. So Kendall, if you're watching, wow, it's got the thumb reader on it. But that's not either here nor there. We are now at the end of round 4. So Kendall's halfway through his day and is what feels like a lucky chair now because he has been there for 4 rounds and won 4 rounds. And now, yeah, we're moving into the second half. And I'm sure he's feeling pretty good about his deck list. Are there any cards in his deck you haven't seen him play that you're like, oh, please? Because he hasn't really got to use that Accomplished Mystic. I mean, he only has 1, but as we've seen, 1 card is enough for him to find exactly what he needs. But has there been any lines of play where you're kind of like, I can't wait to see him do that? Or has he been pretty much doing this deck exactly the way you'd want to play it?
Genie challenge and Bell follow up.
Oh, that is a fun one.
A formidable line of play.
It is. It's very, especially knowing that genie, not a lot of people have easy answers for it. So getting to use that genie to feed Belle in her mystical magic. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, it's so hard. I mean, we're watching someone who's probably the best at this deck do the best at this deck, and he's certainly lived up to his reputation. He did, for people who are like, man, I want to be like Kendall, he has a guide that I believe you can reach out to him, and I believe you pay a certain amount. I donated, but he is a very generous player in the sense that he's always happy to kind of share the things he likes about his deck, which is why I'm very excited that he was voted the community pro, because it's fun to see someone who loves a deck enough to stay with it, loves a deck enough to hone it, and then also is willing to share what he knows about his deck. And Kendall is one of those golden people in the community that does all of those.
Yeah, we will have a link in the description to his guide and also to Team Labyrinth, as he's a member of. We'll have those links in the description to him. And for Katie and Clara, we'll also have links to their social medias, their content creation, and we really appreciate them joining alongside 20 Lore Pro as we are bringing you coverage of Kendall, aka Noimnot, who is voted by you, the community, the 20 Lore Pro Community Pro. So glad to be here in round 4. Thank you so much again, Katie and Clara. Really appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Well, we're happy to be. Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm sure Clara's too. But
I'm delighted.
We're kind of getting closer and closer here real soon to kind of seeing what happens next, you know, with the meta and everything that's changing. But we just want to thank y'all so much for watching here today on 20 Lore Pro, and we will see y'all here in round 5 in just a little bit.